Good morning, guys. I'm super excited to see a friend of mine, Mia from the Rasa Life this morning, who's going to be joining us. If any of you have ever heard of the Well Journal, it's a great tool and it's from the Rasa Life.
Hi.
Hi, cutie. How's it been in all of this?
I think it's crazy, but I'm grateful for all the family time. I'm also grateful to work in an industry where I can be helpful to people. I think that for a lot of people, this has, this whole crisis has, encouraged them to prioritize their health. I have based my nutrition practice and my clients really from a place of empathy because I'm not dogmatic about my
Right.
ideologies. I mean, it's rooted in science, but I like to be practical about things. And a lot of the clients
I
that I
love
work
that.
with are very busy. A lot of times we see things online or we hear some from friends or on social media or whatever. And you're like, okay, now I got to do like, it's stressful. And then what happens is when we don't, follow through with it, or we're not able to continue these cumbersome practices, then we feel like a failure. I think that this whole year has really reinforced in my practice is that, there's a fine line between being totally dependent on sugar and, really it affecting your life in a negative way, and like sitting on the couch on Friday night and having a little ice cream. It's balance, but it's also, I think, sometimes I have an issue with the idea of balance because I feel like it kind of keeps us in place, because if one thing balances out the other, then we're not moving forward. So it's not about rigidity, because I think that also can bring on a lot of unnecessary stress. That maybe if your eating patterns on paper look like they are, uber healthy, but then the practice of it is not, good for you mentally, then that might not be the best thing for you. I think anytime there's a restriction, there's going to be a binge. And that's where I
Right.
feel like a lot of people justify this cycle with the idea of balance. Like, okay, I was so good all week, so I'm going to do this. And so instead of thinking like, okay, well, I'm going to do one good thing and then one not so good thing, I mean, whatever that means anyways, it's just like, I'm always just going to do what feels good in my body. And sometimes, like, getting some ice cream and eating it on the couch is going to feel good in your body, and that's okay. There's no shame in that. But, you know, sometimes that's not going to feel good. I don't believe in cheat days, because what I think that this does mentally is it tells us and it enforces this message that our healthy foods aren't delicious. The idea that tasty food that tastes good, is not good for you, and that food that's good for you doesn't taste good. I really
Right.
want to focus on, well, what feels good? Like, did you have too much candy? And do you feel sick? Like, okay, so that's a learning. Like, you can have, one piece of candy, but maybe you don't want to have 10. That's something my parents always did with me. They were like, go knock yourself out, get sick. And then I kind of learned, like,
Will you share for people who don't know you a little
yeah,
bit about you and what brought you into the wellness space and nutrition and where the Rasa life started? And then we can get into my favorite.
okay. So, my name is Mia Rigden. I live in Santa Monica, and I'm a nutritionist and the founder of Rasa, which is a private functional nutrition practice here in LA. But, I work with everyone remote now. So I've worked with clients all over the place. I grew up in Northern California. My grandmother was actually a dietitian, which is really cool. And everyone in my family cooks. And so, I just always grew up celebrating food and eating. And my grandmother was a wealth of knowledge. And when I graduated from college, I actually went to culinary school in New York, and I went to the French Culinary Institute, learned from real deal, old school French guys and women. And that was so wonderful. And I was working in hospitality. I worked for Chef Danielle Boulud for a long time, and did PR for a variety of restaurants and chefs. But it just didn't, something felt off. And I knew I wanted to work in food, but it just didn't feel right to me, as much as I love exploring different cultures through their food. And I love traveling and I love dining out. I love all those things. I want to try everything. There's something was just off. And so I went back to school and I got my health coaching license and started cooking again, and really working as working as a health coach and helping people with food solutions. And as I started working with clients, I realized that, people have, real health concerns. And I needed to know more. And so then I went back to school and got my master's. So I have a master's in nutrition and integrative health. And now I work with clients to, not only help them with the clinical side of things. Some of my clients have, gut issues or autoimmune disorders, or they have been recovering from something and want to make sure that they are being as healthy as they possibly can. And some people that just, preventatively want to feel good about what they're eating, or are confused by all of the information that is out there and just feeling a little bit stuck. And then let's make it practical and realistic for your life, because everyone has a different, some people don't like to cook. Some people love to cook. Some people travel a lot, maybe not now, but in their pre-COVID life.
Right.
Well, there's always certain things that, everyone has their own very, different set of circumstances, right, or just everyone has their own personal preferences. So right, I work with people to help them to really come up with a plan to figure out what's the best thing for them. For their physiology, for their schedule, for their lifestyle, for the things that they enjoy or don't enjoy, and how to feel really confident and empowered by your food choices so they are not constantly jumping from one thing to the next. I think weight loss, I'm all about feeling good in your body and confident, but I think weight loss is only one part of that. And so when we focus too much on the metrics, and that's really what the Well Journal is all about, but we spend too much time focusing on this number on the scale, we miss the big picture. In my first session with any client, we come up with big goals. A weight loss is often on there. I think that that's a perfectly fine goal to have, but what I find 90% of the time is that by working on the other goals, the weight loss is an outcome. Really? People have different bone densities, and like the BMI is like not, it's just one thing to look at. And also people from different ethnic backgrounds have different bone densities, and different people, maybe if you're athletic growing up, some people just carry a lot more muscle, then they build muscle more easily, and muscle weighs twice as much as fat. So that's where like the Well Journal comes in, because that is like the antidote to calorie counting and macro counting. So what the Well Journal does, so the idea behind the Well Journal was to look at these other metrics of health and to have some data that we could use to just show our progress with any sort of wellness routine that we're adopting that isn't quantifiable. There's qualitative data, and that's what we're going for here. So in the journal, you set goals and you write down how you slept, how your mood is, you write down what you ate, and then, there's a gratitude practice in there, there's some other areas. And the idea is really to foster a positive relationship with the foods you eat. And I really want people to feel more connected with the foods that they eat, and to see, oh, wow, since I started having a smoothie for breakfast, I'm noticing that I have much more energy throughout the day. Or, oh, wow, like I have been going to bed an hour earlier and now I'm noticing this. So often we try them, and when you live with yourself every day, you don't notice. It's like you don't notice that your hair is long until all of a sudden one day it's really long. Like you don't see the growth. When we log what foods you're eating, and then when you experience these symptoms, it's going to be easier for us to find patterns of, foods that might be triggering this, or foods that are more supportive for your digestion. What I want is for people to dissociate the guilt and the shame that is so often correlated to what we're eating with this, with this activity of food journaling. We need food to live. So I focus a lot on nutrient density, for example, like a broccoli, like a broccoli floret, is very nutrient dense. You're getting a lot of nutrition per calorie. It's not about eating less or restricting or not being able to have certain things. It's just about being more intentional. It, to me, is something that is good. It tastes good, it looks good, it smells good, but then it's also going to make you feel good.
So if somebody wanted to work with you, I'm assuming you're working virtually. How do they find you? On here, on your website?
Yeah, I don't know how people find me. Instagram, through press or partnerships that I've
Yeah, yeah,
done,
yeah.
friends of friends, word of mouth. I have a few.
But you consult with individuals
Yeah.
and you can help them kind of like soup to nuts nutritionally, right?
Yeah, we break down the whole thing. And, my goal for my clients is that after the 3-month program, they don't need me anymore. And they're done trying all these different diets. It's like, okay, once and for all, let's figure this out. Let's get you set up on a plan that makes sense for you, that works for you, that you enjoy. And then also, working a lot on, what's going on in here. What I see a lot of times with my clients, they'll come to me, I want to lose 15 pounds. I'm like, okay. And then they lose 8 pounds and they're like, you know what? I just feel really good. I don't really care anymore. There's this culture of like constantly trying to get to this number. And I actually don't even give my clients a weight number that they should reach. If we want to talk about weight, which I don't with all of my clients, I give them a range. Sometimes we feel like getting to this weight is going to mean that these doors are going to open up for us, or that it's going to solve some problems that we're feeling. And, a lot of times it doesn't.
Is there any suggestions that you have, whether it's to boost one's emotional state, immune state, or really their nutritional state? Like what suggestions do you have to make it a little easier for people to get through what we're going through?
I mean, I think focusing on your mental health is huge. So, studies show that in the moment eating actually doesn't lead to long-term happiness. We get a momentary high followed by a deeper low. I'm all for indulgences. I like to have a glass of wine, on a Friday night, and we order pizza, and I said I eat ice cream, but I really try to be intentional and think about, well, why am I having this food? Am I having this food because I feel sad and I think this is going to make me feel better? Or am I having this food because I'm celebrating that it's Friday night and, going to enjoy a nice dinner at home with my husband? There might be some times when I reach for sugar or a glass of wine when I'm just trying to cope. But trying to think of, okay, what are some other things that I could do? Could I call a friend? Could I go for a walk? Could I develop a meditation practice, or even just some breath work? Or could I make myself something else?
The whole celery craze has really taken off, and I know people have very different thoughts on it. So I want to know your thoughts on it.
I've never had celery juice, if that tells you my thoughts on it. Actually, maybe I have once. I definitely have had juices with celery in it. I think you're missing out on some of the fiber. I think also, like, if you're juicing the celery yourself at home, for some people, that can be like just an extra thing to do, an extra thing to clean, or something else that I have to do every morning, waking up early to do. Or they're charging like $10 for a bottle of fresh pressed celery juice. So I love celery. I cook with celery. I eat it raw. I put celery in my smoothies before. And celery definitely has some, wonderful nutrients in it. But I haven't seen any long-term studies that are showing that celery juice in particular. I'm also not a medium, so I always tell my clients that I'm not clairvoyant.
You mean
so
you're not?
Could be something that I don't know. And if you feel good drinking celery juice, drink the celery juice. But I don't want to tell people that this is going to be the answer or the cure for their meals, or that every morning they have to, I heard you say, like, when I'm being a good girl. And I feel like what that does, I mean, that's really,
I heard myself say it too.
I mean, that's really time consuming. And I think that that's a big problem with the wellness industry, is saying you have to do this if you want to have a healthy gut. I feel very good, and I've never had celery juice. So I lived in Asia for a number of years. Drinking a cold juice in the morning in Chinese culture is probably the worst thing that you could possibly do. They don't drink cold foods. So even like a smoothie would not be, like in traditional Chinese culture, it's about warming foods. And I think that there's a lot of validity in that. And that's something that I work on a lot of my clients with, because I could talk about this forever, but our like Western diet culture, we think of healthy foods and weight loss foods as like cold foods, smoothies, salads, juices. And a lot of women, we need more grounding. We need warmer foods. Going back to celery juice, Like, I just don't think that's the cure for everyone. And I feel like we are all searching for that thing and it doesn't exist. We have to go inward and really find, you know, some people doing the celery juice really works for them and that's fantastic, but it's going to be stressful or not enjoyable for someone else. And that's not helpful.
Like, I think any of it, right, is the way your system and your body and your soul react to something.
But let's not impose on other people and make people feel like if they don't have the time to get up early and juice their celery, that they're not good. So tiny things that you can do can make a big difference. Like, you know, drink a big glass of water, having, you know, 3 liters of water a day.
That's a job.
Yeah, that can have a huge impact on your life. Another thing that I'm a really big fan of is I try and get my clients to eat, wait for it, 20 different vegetables every single week. So I count different lettuces and I count herbs as well, like garlic, onion, ginger. I count all that. I'm pretty like liberal of what I count. But the idea behind that is to just try and get more nutrition from the foods that we're eating, because every vegetable and herb, or really every food for that matter, has its own unique mix of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. And
my last question is, as we continue to upgrade, because hopefully all this shifting is for an upgrade in our world, do you have any little nuggets or pieces of wisdom you want to leave us with?
Yeah, just don't be so hard on yourself.
I love that.
You know, but food shouldn't be something else that we have to stress about on top of everything else. So focus on what makes you feel good, not what you see on Instagram or what someone else is doing. Focus on what feels good for you. Okay, stay well.
Thank you,
for
my
having
love.
me. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, sweetheart.